Yes, it is Oche Nesto, or whatever that song is. It's so beautiful. Good to have you on board. This is James Moore. You are listening to solar-powered KRUU-FM, broadcasting from the Cultural District here in Fairfield, Iowa, home of the Midwest's only solar-powered radio station. Also streaming online at KRUU-FM.com. And we're sunny even on a cloudy day. Like today, I don't see any ping-pong ball-size hail coming down at the moment. Been some interesting weather of late. Want to remind you, coming up today at 1:30 on Speaking Freely, Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders is going to be calling in to talk with Dennis about politics, and I guess he's going to be in Clinton, Iowa, May 17th for some kind of Democratic event. But Bernie Sanders, one of the leading progressives in the country, and so that should be a lot of fun. Speaking of progress, we have joining us today the one and only Fairfield City Council person from the 4th Ward, whose name is Michael Halley. And I understand, because I read Facebook, that you've achieved a very significant special something in your workout world. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Before we get into the City Council news, I completed CrossFit Level 1 certification, which means I can now coach CrossFit at my favorite local gym, Boom Fitness.
Well, congratulations on that. I know that's no small achievement, and it's a little more than drinking coffee, right?
A little bit.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Speaking of a little bit more than just drinking coffee, also Fairfest coming up in a few weeks, well, about a month away, and a lot of great things developing there. Keep it tuned. Interviews with a lot of different folks that are going to be performing, and much, much more. We also got a little plug from the man himself, Mr. Neil Young. How about that? Mike Ragonia doing an interview for HuffPo. Gracious enough. And you know what? This is what he said. I'm Neil Young. You're listening to KRUU-FM on the Sun. He's known as a man of few words, but that was pretty cool, I thought.
Nice.
Anyway, let's get into City Haps. If you're joining us live today at 12:30 Tuesday, Thursdays at 6:30 p.m., or Monday mornings the following 6:30 a.m., you can catch up on City Haps. We've had state business regularly too. Kurt Hansen, our representative, now wrapping up with the season. We're going to see if we can get the county to participate over the next stretch of time here to get all the different aspects. But let's hone in on city business. Michael, what do you got?
All right. This is a review of our regular City Council meeting on May 12th, 2014. A relatively light agenda. We finished in under an hour, which always makes everyone very happy. We had no public forums or appearances, so no one wanted to come speak to council.
That's a little unusual.
Yeah, it happens. We try not to take it personally. All right, we set a public hearing for our next meeting now. Usually we're the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month, but the 4th Monday is Memorial Day, so we will be having our meeting the following Tuesday, May 27th. So city business will have to be shifted a little bit that time, but we'll make it work. It's just a budget amendment for the fiscal year 13-14. So we had to set a public hearing to have that amended. So stay tuned for whatever the amendment was. I'm sure it was some minor thing. All right. The next resolution is something that I was pleased to present to council. It was a policy that the city put in place years ago when we had an administrator named Jeff Clausen. And at the time, the city was reconstructing a portion of D Street. Reconstruction is where the entire street is torn out down to the base.
The nubs.
Just, yeah, complete reconstruction, as it sounds. And what happens is, in years past, when street trees were planted in the right-of-way, that space between the street and the sidewalk, sometimes the streets were more narrow at the time when they were planted, or the technology for repaving streets was different than it is now. Now it's done with so I guess it's a machine of sorts that stretches from corner to corner and actually has the rounded curbs at either end, and it overlaps a bit. It gets wider than the road and wider than the curb. So in order for that machine to come in and to put in a real smooth, nice new concrete street, a lot of times street trees that are too close to the to the curb are removed. So that happened on D Street, and it's going to happen again on a portion of Highland Street that's being reconstructed this year. Obviously, with the whole new urban tree plan and the emphasis put on our street trees, partly as a result of the EAB infestation, it's going to wipe out our ash. The city is taking more seriously the street tree care and replanting and all that kind of thing. So the unofficial policy we made official is that in a reconstruction scenario, we will replace every tree taken out with a new tree at our expense, at the city's expense. So basically a one-to-one replacement. And again, those street trees aren't the property owner's property. You know, if you live in a house and you got a nice street tree, it feels like it because it's right there by your property. And if it's providing shade or just aesthetic quality and it's gone, it's a shock and it changes the value of the property. It's what really happens. So replacing an old tree with the new one is very least the city can do. So these new trees are maybe 6 feet tall. They're not, it's going to take decades before they're anything like the old ones. But just to include that as part of the project, and even the expense of the tree replacement is covered as part of the project.
Well, 6 feet is no small chicken tree-wise. I mean, that's something. That's
it's a maybe it's a 5-year-old tree or something. But at the same time, we are replacing a lot of trees because of the ash trees we're losing, and it changes the landscape, the tree landscape, quite a bit. So that passed. So that's our official formal policy. I'm going to include that in the urban tree plan we're still developing. And as we move forward, if you see a tree coming out of the right of way, you should see a new one go in. Can't put it exactly in the same spot. You can't plant a tree right in the same spot as an old tree, but relatively nearby. So another resolution was part of our Blue Zone projects, approving healthy vending policy. So city vending machines, I know of one at the rec center right by the indoor pool. We're saying that half the options in there need to meet these healthy vending standards. Now, we were actually a little ahead of the curve in this one, that Park and Rec had a NEMS assessment. I'm forgetting exactly the acronym for NEMS, but it has to do with nutrition. And basically just
I'm trying not to think of one.
No, don't, because it'll come out. You know what'll happen. We know better. So nutrition evaluation measured system. I'm going to guess. That sounds about right.
Better than mine.
But it has to do with the nutritional value of the options. So instead of a candy bar, you can have a granola bar. Instead of soda, bottled water, etc. So that vending machine there already has passed, I guess there's different grades, and it got like the second highest in terms of healthy options. So again, that's part of Blue Zones, is just making healthy choices easy. So as the mayor was saying, if there's an apple in there, maybe that wouldn't be the thing that you would normally pick, but if an apple is in there instead of chocolate bar, maybe you're going to pick the apple in there. You've got some real nutrition in your body now. So we got that one passed. Basically, I kind of took over making the city policy portion of the Blue Zone reality after our city administrator resigned. So one more, hopefully by next week. I've got one more to go, I think. And that's a new bike and pedestrian master plan. So it's not going to be as masterful as the last one that was done. That was done by students from, I believe, U of I. And it was quite extensive. But we'll try to take what they created, update it, and make something that's maybe 5 pages, but includes projects that will get done.
And what does that mean exactly?
It's just a plan for enhancing bikeability and walkability in the city. So for walkability, you basically are adding sidewalks where sidewalks don't exist currently, or improving sidewalks. One thing is we're looking at making a new standard for sidewalk width. The new standard, I think it's 5 feet most places, just a little wider than in the past. Now, if people may remember, years back, there was a whole sidewalk improvement project where the homeowner had to pay for the upgrade in front of their property, and it was a big hot topic for a while, and that's done. But like anything, it's going to have to be done again. There's anything in the physical environment will degrade and need to be repaired or redone. So at some point, we'll have
speak
to do
for
it.
yourself.
Oh, yeah?
No, I'm kidding.
If you could think of anything, actually, we'll get back to trees. Trees are the only investment that actually pays back more over time. Instead of depreciates, it appreciates.
Well, let's say it's all about shelf life, It's about shelf life. And that's what I call when old people take pictures of themselves, shelfies. Speaking of back to topic, I want to thank FMC, Fairfield Media Center, for being here and videotaping. And that's why there's a little more animation than usual for our radio listeners.
Yep.
This is James Moore. We're with City Council person Michael Halley, who is bringing us the latest from City Haps right here on solar-powered KRUU-FM. And we do this following each City Council session. We're happy to be able to, and grateful to Michael, to be able to bring you what's going on there. Also, just wanted to remind listeners and viewers, I guess, the Marshy School Radio Action News Team is now live each day at noon 10, and that gets rebroadcast 6:10 and 6 a.m., 6:10 a.m. the following morning. But this action team that's doing such a great job coming in and doing live interviews following cruise news, which I think is just a wonderful development. We'd like to have more teams that way, something that we're really delighted to see. And speaking of back to City Haps, before Michael gets lost in texting.
Sorry, my daughter needs something from me. So.
Well, we're pro daughter needing some things.
Yeah.
I'll just go on by saying.
No, I think I'm good.
Again, Fairfield Media Center. We thank Jason and all the good folks there doing great work, and really delighted to have them working with us as part of Fairfest and KMCD as well. So it's kind of like a happy family here, bringing you this next big event. We're getting great feedback from people across the country too. Excited to come this summer. So, Michael, what else we have there?
Well, let's see if I can multitask here. We had some engineering agreements for an extension of the sewer line at Libertyville Road. So that's kind of going west of the hospital, that road out there. Currently, most of those properties, and I guess maybe none of those properties, are within city limits, so they would need to be voluntarily annexed. The city is, I don't believe in any of its history has ever involuntarily annexed any property. So we're not into that kind of taking of property. We're more into the, if you want to join us, we'll gladly accept you kind of thing. So what's going on out there is they are not currently hooked up to the city sewer or any sewer. A lot of them have septic systems, and the DNR has put a time limit on some of them to get hooked up, or either upgrade their system or get hooked up to the city sewer. So in order to do that, the city would have to run the line past all the properties. Some might not want to connect right away because maybe they feel like their septic system is still functional and they don't have to, but the line will be there, and I think eventually they'll all connect. It's just simpler to pay, I believe. I've never had this, but I'm going to say it's simpler to pay for a sewer service than it is to constantly be dealing with your septic system getting full, needing emptied, and eventually, as with sidewalks and anything, needing to be replaced. So, more on that later. It's just the preliminary engineering type work.
All right.
It's nothing set in stone yet. All right, we also approved Fairfield Flying Service contract extension. Fairfield Flying Service, the name of the group who's been managing the Fairfield Airport for 19 years, something like that, quite a while. Doing a great job, and they've got a number of projects in the works that they want to see through. So the contract extends for 10 years, though with any contract there's either side can dissolve it if necessary. But one big project they're working on right now is a new terminal. I really wanted them to have baggage claim area with the carousel, but apparently it's not that
It always bothered me about airports, why they call them terminal, But
yeah, exactly.
I guess if you're not afraid of flying, you're okay.
So new terminal, that one's quite old and outdated. They want to do something with the fuel tanks, like new fuel tanks for the jets. Right now they're at full capacity. They can't take any more private jets, but if they could look at building new hangars at some point, they could have more. So it's interesting to think, in a small town that we have quite this number of private jets, but we're a little unusual in that way.
Well, Jim Carrey's coming in to give the commencement address for MUM in a few weeks, so I don't know if he's a private jet guy or not, but one might suspect.
Yeah, I'm sure he would fly in. All right. We've passed the third and final reason I'm laughing. It was a little funny moment. The water rate increase. So our sewer and water utilities chairperson, Darren Hamilton, made the motion, and it was like crickets chirping. None of the other council members would second it. Not that it was a unanimous vote. There was just that moment where maybe someone thought, no, you go ahead, no, like that polite thing. So he looked a little distraught for a moment, like what's going on, guys? So I went ahead, like a true friend, I seconded his motion, and it did pass unanimously, but it's not something the city likes doing, raising rates, but there's so many upgrades that need to be done on the water line, and 12%, again, is not 12% of your entire utility bill, it's 12% of approximately 25%, which comes to about 4%. So
3%.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, thanks. See my math skills. I've been out of school for too long. All right, we also finalized rezoning of 200 East Briggs from B1 to R3. It was a residence being used as business, and the property owners want to use it as multi-residential. Then we had the mayor's report. He gave us an update on the sale of Logan Apartment. That's the apartment complex at the corner of 4th and Madison. I've never understood why, but the city owns, and the city's looking to sell. One thing that we're dictating in our sale agreement is that the new owner has to keep it as a HUD or Section 8, basically government subsidized housing for the tenants who use that, so that we can't have somebody come in and basically kick everyone out, remodel, and make it into something else. That they have to honor that that use, at least for a period of time after it's purchased. But at the same time, it would be nice for someone to come in and add a little TLC and fix it up a bit. So more on that. I think we've got people have until the end of the month to put in offers on that. It's either the end of this month or the end of next month.
How many units is that? Do you know?
I do not know.
It's at least
big.
It's a big place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone interested, contact City Hall if you're that kind of monopoly type player who likes to buy up properties. See, Ed also gave us an update on the downtown facade restoration project. The city was awarded a $500,000 grant. Originally in the grant application, there were 15 properties included, but in the actual project, it will be 13. I'm not quite sure why, but maybe 2 dropped out. So basically, they have to take the plans that we had for what will be done, but then turn them into an actual project that includes cost estimates and such. When it's all hammered out, the total project cost is $110. It's $1,100,000. $100,000 coming from the city, $500 from the grant, $500 from the property owners. So it's about a 1-to-1 match between grant and private money, and then some contribution from the city just to make it happen. And I've seen the plans. It includes quite a few awnings, like old style awnings instead of metal awnings, and just some architectural work around windows and such, just to give it more of a historic look.
What's the time frame for this? Do you know?
Construction would probably be next year.
Okay.
And the grant says that one contractor will do all the work. So once it's all in order.
I see, just for consistency?
Yeah, just to get it consistent and make it basically time frame one project instead of like this one is delayed. It's, if it's the same contractor and they want to get done and they want to get paid, then they'll be motivated to finish.
Seems like it would take longer somehow to do one person.
Yeah, you think that, but grants are funny that way.
Look, hey, we've done a fair number of grants, and they all have their own their grants for built-in reasons, good, and you just part of what it is. And that is, by the way, a good thing to know, because sometimes it just seems like, well, why don't you just do it this way or that way? But grants are a great thing, but they do always have a particular thing that they're doing or their angle or something.
Yep.
So that is an interesting one, but I'm just a big fan of what happened with the Great Places money, and certainly the downtown area with some of those the beautiful bricks and whatnot. It's a different place. Some of the folks coming back for this 30th anniversary of the first graduating class of Maharishi School in the summer. Maybe some of them haven't been here since then. I think between some of the facades that have already been done, like at Revelations, Cafe P, and the square's looking better and better all the time.
Yeah,
this is really going to upgrade, isn't it?
Yeah, and Dave Neff, who maintains the Parsons alumni group, says Parsons alums say the same thing. They come back to town maybe even after a longer period, 40 years, 50 years since they've been here, and they're always impressed at what's going on. We just did have some tree planting on the square, put in, I think it was 14 trees, and that's in preparation for the ash that we're going to lose to EAB. So we are. And
EAB is emerald ash borer disease, right?
Emerald ash borer.
Ash borer.
It's an insect that.
Oh, yes.
The larvae are planted under the bark, and when they hatch, they eat in what they call serpentine patterns. So they go back and forth, and that essentially destroys the tree's vascular system. It can't get nutrients or water from the roots to the leaves, and kills the tree. And now it's not anything that is new. It's been moving its way from east to west across the United States, and it has a 100% kill rate for ash trees. It's not. People say, well, maybe my ash won't die. Say your ash would be the first not to die, in all this time. I mean, it's just the nature of the insect is it doesn't have natural predators in this part of the world. It's from China or Mongolia area, and it has natural predators there that keep it in check. But the woodpeckers here will eat the larva, but they're not familiar with them. So one way to check for an EAB infested tree is to see, they call discovery holes, where woodpeckers can sense the vibration of insects under the bark, but they're not accustomed to the particular vibration of this insect because it's not native. So it's not really in their genetics to detect it, but they still detect it, and they're curious. So they'll peck a hole and then take a look at it before they'll eat it. So they will eat it, but they're not really targeting. There are actually native boring insects that do have natural predators in this area that don't decimate trees as badly as EAB. I wonder if there'll be a time when humans have disrupted every ecosystem on the planet sufficient that there's some sort of balance is maintained, because this is not the end of this. I mean, there are going to be other insects from other parts of the world and doing this kind of thing.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing, how delicate the ecosphere, that all the balance is with chemicals dumped and runoff and different things with amphibians. And I've just been reading. It's interesting to balance all those things. On the positive, I've had Elaine Ingeman, soil microbiologist. She says leave the soil alone and it can replenish. But it's the leaving alone that's sometimes the hard part. But anyway, any final
just a
news?
couple of committee reports. Ways and Means had a joint meeting with Economic Development Committee. There's a developer or landowner who wants to develop the property east of the new Pilot Grove Bank there on South Highway 1 across from the hospital, and looking at housing. Now the city knows we need new housing, so he wanted just some sort of letter of intent saying, the city says, if we have additional TIF funds from Pilot Grove, we'll pave this road as far back towards your development as we can. We need to be careful in the language because the city is not in a position to promise TIF funds or change a TIF. TIFs are based on a value, or based on assessment. So the assessed value of Pilot Grove, when it's done, will dictate the TIF revenue in that particular TIF district. So we'll see, but we can say in a very non-binding way, it is our intention that we would do this if the funds were there. So it might sound kind of wishy-washy, but it is enough sometimes for developers to feel that they can then invest in a project that they feel that the city will back, because it's it's expensive to put in infrastructure, to put in roads and sewer lines and water lines and such. And so the city handles that. The kickback for us is that those new properties then go on our tax base. And then, as I like to say, the tax burden is then shared among more people. So more on that as it develops, but that was just an initial conversation. We also had a request from Parks and Rec, similarly what happened last year. And this actually is helping Fairfest this year. The electrical system on the square was very outdated. And for years, Live on the Square was complaining that this thing is going to blow and it's going to short circuit and needs upgrading. So for Ragbri, we had so many things happening on the square. We decided to go ahead and the city invested some money into putting in a new system that can handle live music and vendors and all the things that happen on the square on a regular basis. And so it was essentially those upgrades were paid for by the Ragbri, the revenue that was brought in through local option sales tax. Again, now we have the 175th anniversary of Fairfield. We're having a party out at Waterworks on July 4th. Sorry, 5th. 4th is Friday Art Walk. The next day, the Saturday, and that's when we're having our fireworks display. We'll also have vendors and entertainment, some music out there at Waterworks. That system is also outdated, so they made a request to see if there was any additional local option sales tax funds from this last fiscal year. Could we get some to upgrade that? I believe they were able to find it and get that upgraded. So then, just like now, Fairfest is having a second stage on the square, which may not have been possible before, but now is because we upgraded the system. So when you make an upgrade like this, everyone benefits. So
it's fantastic.
Yay for upgrades.
Yay for upgrades. Also for KMCD and Tammy and Steve and the good work going over there on Beverage Garden this year too, folks. That'll be kind of fun. And also, of course, I didn't mention Iowa Source and Weekly Reader for working with us as well. Michael, always good to see you. I think we're out of time.
That's great. I'm done.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Well, that means it's time for the music. Keep it tuned right here to Solar Powered KRUU-FM. Always good to see you. Keep up the good work there, City Council. And remember, you can hear this 6:30 p.m. Thursday, 6:30 a.m. Monday. And we'll be back. Keep it tuned right here to Solar Powered KRUU-FM.